Over 176,000 years ago, deep in a cave in France, Neanderthals broke off stalagmites and built rings in complete darkness. Fire burned inside them. There were no gods, no text, or temples, just stone, fire, and intention. If that's not religion, what is? Today, we're going to dig back before Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, or Buddhism, before even Egypt, before writing, before even us as a species. We're going to follow the trail of evidence from Neolithic temples to Ice Age burials, to Neanderthal caves, to hints that even other human species, maybe Neanderthals or Denisovans, maybe even Homo erectus, saw the world how we see it through sacred eyes and religion. So religion gets pretty slippery to define, but most anthropologists agree it's organized practice and belief in non-visible forces, like gods, spirits, ancestors, expressed through some type of a ritual. In the present day, we see it almost everywhere in every culture. Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, Chinese ancestral rites, but almost all of those rely on some sort of text. Archaeology can't see belief. It only sees behavior, burials, offerings, sacred spaces, and symbols. And from that, we ask, when did humans, and maybe even our pre-human ancestors, start living as if the world was more than just what we see with our eyes? By about 2500 to 2000 BC, religion leaves written fingerprints in pretty much every culture. In Egypt, for example, around 2400 BC, the pyramid texts appear. Spells carved on Unis pyramid walls, guiding the pharaoh to the afterlife. In Mesopotamia, we also see it. By 3000 to 2000 BC, Sumerian city cults worshipped Enlil, Inanna, and the gods of the ziggurats. In China, by 1250 BC, the Shang kings cracked oracle bones, asking their ancestors about war, harvest, and childbirth. In India, the Rig Veda, composed 1500 to 1000 BC, sing hymns to fire, sky, storms. But by then, religion was already ancient to a lot of these people. The iceberg beneath the tip goes back tens of thousands of years to our prehistory. So let's rewind to between 10,000 and 7,000 BC. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, massive T-shaped pillars carved with vultures, foxes, and snakes. A sanctuary before agriculture. Temples came way before farming ever came along. In Jericho, we see plastered skulls with seashell eyes buried under house floors. And here in Çatalhöyük, sorry for the pronunciation, homes are plastered with bull skulls and wall paintings. Another example in this cave in Israel dated to about 12,000 years ago, a woman was buried with over 50 tortoise shells, eagle wings, boar bones, likely some type of shaman. This is the earliest clear evidence of a ritual specialist, like priests or shamans, that kind of thing. These types of religions were woven into the daily life of these people. It wasn't just about gods in the sky, but it was about the ancestors, the animals, and the cycles of life and death. Even further back, between 30 and 40,000 years ago, and I did a video on this previously, in Sungir, Russia, there were children buried with over 10,000 beads, mammoth ivory beads that is, ochre, and spears. That's costly, super costly symbolism for hunter-gatherers. Graves, and these graves would have been some kind of sacred space or something special. Or look at the Lion Man figurine in Germany. It's a human body with a lion's head, the oldest evidence of mythic beings that don't exist in nature. Or look at this cave art in Indonesia. We see a painted hunting scene with human-animal hybrids. That's not just decoration, that's storytelling, it's a myth, it's beliefs in action. Or let's go to this cave in South Africa. We see pieces of ochre engraved with deliberate cross-hatch patterns that show symbolic thought even earlier than we ever thought. These aren't just practical objects, they're symbols. So going back to some of our other ancestors, Neanderthals, for example, they thrived between 400,000 and 40,000 years ago. And we don't think they were just mindless brutes living in caves. For example, I mentioned this earlier, there's that cave in France, where there's evidence that the Neanderthals built this ring structure of stalagmites deep underground in this cave. and there's traces that there was fire inside of these. So why would these Neanderthals go so far into the dark unless it mattered to them? Going to the Shanidar cave in Iraq, we see skeletons found in clusters. One famous flower burial suggested some type of ritual, though later studies say pollen may have drifted in, but new finds still show careful placement of bodies. That has to mean something, some type of belief. Going back to France, a bear skull, we found this bear skull deliberately placed on a rock in this cave surrounded by other bones. Some argue that this points to some type of bear cult or bear religion, though it's highly debated still. We know Neanderthals treated caves, bones, and fire as more than just survival. They may not have had religion like we see it today, but they had some kind of rituals and something greater, some greater belief. So what if we go to even some more ancient humans? For example, the Denisovans, who lived between 300,000 years ago and 50,000 years ago across most of Asia. The direct evidence of any kind of ritual is scarce, but we have bracelets and beads from Denisova Cave. Were they symbolic? Maybe, it's hard to tell. Let's go to one of the most ancient hominins, the Homo erectus, who lived over 2 million years ago till about 100,000 years ago. They're mostly remembered for their tools and their ability to make fire. But at sites in Java, we find shells with engraved signets. Some see this as the earliest abstract symbolism ever. Was it religion? Unfortunately, there's no way to tell as of now, but it hints at a symbolic culture. Or let's look at another ancestor, Homo naledi, in South Africa about 250,000 years ago. Controversial claims that they intentionally buried their dead deep in caves, maybe even engraved the walls. If true, they may have had rituals despite tiny brains, about the third size of ours. The line between human and religious human is pretty fuzzy, and it's hard to figure out where we can define that beginning of religion. So that's the question. Do we see religion-like behavior outside of us humans? Chimpanzees, for example, drum on tree roots during storms, almost like a rain dance. Jane Goodall called it the waterfall dance. Awe at natural forces. Elephants, for example, return to the bones of their dead, touching them gently, sometimes even carrying those bones. That's a ritual of memory. Crows and ravens gather silently around dead companions, almost like a funeral. Whales and dolphins sometimes support sick or dying members, even carrying their bodies for days. So are these religions? Probably not, definitely not in the human sense, but they do show the roots: awe, respect for the dead, ritualized behavior. The seeds of the sacred aren't just ours. The seeds of religion might not just be ours. Maybe this is a species, earth type thing that we all have some kind of ritualistic behavior built into us maybe. So what do we count as religion? If it's honoring the dead, Neanderthals did it. They were religious. If it's imagining otherworldly beings, Lion Man proves we did that 40,000 years ago. And if it's awe at forces of nature, chimps, elephants, even crows hint at this. Religion wasn't born with scripture. It's as old as storytelling, death, and fire. So maybe the first religions weren't about gods at all. Maybe they were about care for the dead, for each other, for the unseen. And only later did we give these things names like religion or gods such as Osiris, Yahweh, or Shiva. Religion, it seems, is as old as the first spark that lit a sacred fire in the dark. Hey, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave it a like. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. Let me know what you think of this video, and do you think that religion is this old? Let me know what other videos you want to see in the future, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good one. Bye.